Beautiful friends, and welcome back to Alien Protocols. So today we're really going to get into the weeds by exploring the Vallee Davis model versus Vallee's control system. Control system and now he's actually changed that to meta system. We'll get into all these explanations. So we've got these two, the Vallee Davis model and Vallee's control meta system model. I'll try to do them both justice. And then of course we have the interactive universe model. Universe model. Interactive fractal universe model. Okay. And this is where we really try and get at what the freak is going on. What is the phenomena? Now, the Vallee Davis model makes quite a few assertions, and they're very good assertions. It's almost as if there's kind of like a progression here. Although Vallee's control system has been around even before, I think, or definitely before the Vallee Davis model. You can go back into his early books and he starts to develop it more and more and more. Both of these, because Vallee is in them, have the sentiment that it would be really disappointing if the phenomena is just UFO associated. And the Vallee Davis model really goes into the fact that there's a lot of consciousness effects. And so one of the core thing, I guess, with the Vallee Davis model is that it talks about consciousness being part of the system. It's a part. It plays a role. That's what the assertion is, from my understanding. Now, Vallee's control system, now meta control system, is very, it has some startling implications. And the implications are phenomena and UFOs are part of a larger control system from the universe or from our reality that expresses itself in these ways. The strange, bizarre phenomena stuff and the UFO stuff. And it's been asserted now too that it's much more than just a system. It's a systems within a system. So the Vallee meta control system basically means there's systems and all sorts of different things going on. He also asserts that there are different things that can happen, and those are initiated by consciousness. But also, there's some other thing going on here. Yes, this control system, the phenomena and UFOs, can read consciousnesses, apparently, and express themselves in consciousness, doing things from precognition to following the observer home, all those things. This control system is actually something separate from us as well, too. It implies, on some level, that we are a type of zoo, perhaps, a construct of some kind. And these phenomena and UFOs are meant to control us, prevent us from going too deep into some areas, perhaps, or to make us believe some things in order to distract us from what could be what the meta control system is protecting. That's conceivable. And you really have to read both of these to get a real sense of a more accurate sense of what they are. And both of them basically say the phenomena is weird. We know that this consciousness is a part of it. The Vallee meta control system says consciousness is a part of it and interacts, but there are systems within systems, and some things can be activated and others not. And the interactive universe model, if you've seen it here on our channel, it talks about how consciousness constructs all of these things. Like phenomena and UFOs have some very odd but exactly the same characteristics. And they were very difficult to kind of handle at first. Number one, mirroring the observer. Phenomena at Skinwalker will reflect the type of personalities that people are, certain people are, and give them events based probably on their subconscious and a lot of their emotions and senses and feelings and history and everything. And so the phenomena mirrors, UFOs would mirror and copy either the physical actions of a human, like the Russian baiting tests, where they were using hand gestures to make the orbs flatten out and do different things. Or also flashlights. Flashlights have been used to interact for, a lot of UFO history. There's so many different cases. So we have mirroring, then it's precognition. UFOs seem to know where the ship is going to be, or where Lieutenant Fravor was going to be at his next waypoint. And the UFO was already waiting there, so somehow had to have precognition. At Skinwalker and other locations, the phenomena seemed to know what they were going to do and trick them by going around it. So a lot of definitions of the phenomena there from Bigelow era was that it was a precognitive intelligent entity. So there's precognition with UFOs and phenomena. There's mirroring with UFOs and phenomena. Then there's a bunch of them, but these are really specific ones. There is the Hitchhiker Effect. Remember the Hitchhiker? Where the phenomena will follow them home. With UFOs, they have ongoing, continuing stuff that happens to them at home, in their beds, in yards. Families are exposed to things. But also with other phenomena, like many cases from Skinwalker and other of these locations, that people would have weird entities and things follow them home. And if you watch this channel, you know that, well, what else mirrors you? What else is precognitive of you? And what follows you home? What could that possibly be? You. You mirror you. You are precognizant of what you are going to do, and you follow you home. The key component there is consciousness. In the interactive universe model, doesn't say the consciousness is part. Consciousness is a driving major force of this system. It's built for consciousnesses to interact with the universe. Now think of consciousness and intelligence kind of on different, similar kind of scales. You start with the small, consciousness is basically awareness. That's what it is. Consciousness is awareness. And we like to think we have a very elevated form of consciousness, and we certainly do. But any living thing has a certain awareness to its surroundings and can utilize its abilities and the surroundings to improve its existence and to extend its existence. So all life forms, as they get more and more advanced, manipulate the environment more and more as they get more intelligent. Microbes do certain little things, kind of industrious they can be, but as you get larger and larger, there's all sorts of amazing ways that animals and creatures and life forms manipulate the environment for their advantage with their awareness. I don't think just we strangely evolved consciousness when all the other living things didn't. I think it's evolved for a very logical reason. It's our way to interact with the universe and cultivate the universe to our needs, and making our existences easier and easier. Now, humans can dramatically change the environment for their advantage. You know, you walk into it, you look at a city, and it's just incredibly transformed to our personal advantage. Now, try to imagine an intelligence greater than yours. Much, much greater. How much could it manipulate reality? Something to think about. So the interactive universe model basically talks about PK displayers, that many people can display PK. It originates from the subconscious's connection to this universe. The subconscious's neural connections to this meta control system. There is some sort of parameters, and there's probability. And something's very probable up here, but very rare and weird can happen down here. It's as if it's like a game of Dungeons and Dragons. At every event, you roll dice, and the numbers mean different outcomes. And maybe if you interact with the universe in certain ways, you will activate one of the options. It may be a very highly percent chance option under circumstances is at first, it's the energy balls, orbs, the Hutchinson balls, the light balls the spheroids that the Russian generals, General Vasily Alexeyev spoke about. Also the ones that injured our soldiers, that a certain doctor treated. And your special forces soldiers and scientists and aerospace engineers bivouacked at repeat locations. And we know this stuff is true. You can look at the silver record and see the damage and the stories, and you even get like a CAT scan that shows one of the damaged brains from these initial early stages of these. So the PK displayer, if you go back into our understanding of the PK displayer, it's activated by the subconscious. And rare factors have to basically take place in order for the PK displayer to display PK. Maybe they have a certainly very high elevated consciousness perhaps and don't even look that different from us. It's possible. Or maybe it's just all of us can do this. But so the first forms were these energy balls. And the descriptions of the PK displayers, here's just a couple of the things that are required to be a PK displayer. You have to be under severe stress. Severe stress. You also have to not have any sort of spiritual release. That's a way to depressurize, and so you don't build up to these incredibly high levels of stress. So there's no release. No release. And there's actually a bunch more that are actually required for a PK displayer to display. But let's just take a couple of these. And imagine you're in the ball turret of a B-52 bomber in World War II on your second to last mission, and you're in this incredibly dangerous little spot, and you're just so worried, poof. Foo Fighters, World War II. What if you are in a missile silo, and at your very fingers is the destruction of the world? Poof. You can have Malmstrom repeat events at Malmstrom and other bivouac locations, the energy balls. Now, there's some other suppositions on how these change from energy balls early on with an early PK displayer, when they're earliest displays. But if they display again and more, these can evolve. Now, Hutchinson's energy balls, he said you couldn't get near the target area because it emitted broadband radiation. And a special broadband radiation also damaged the soldiers for that experiment that was done with the soldiers bivouacked at repeat locations. So maybe it's all the same thing. The Foo Fighters. Maybe a bunch of people get together, girls tell you that the Virgin Mary is going to appear in the sky, and you all get there and you're all in a giant group in this religious fervor, and poof, you've got Fatima and the dancing light in the sky, the dancing sun. What if you were on board a missile carrier And you have the responsibility in this radar missile carrier ship to protect the entire fleet of ships. Poof, minutes, perhaps. Now that could have been someone in a radar or a PK displayer somewhere. They might not even have had to be part of the fleet. I can get to some of this later. PK displayers at other locations can be causing different levels of PK displays at different locations. So the interactive universe model basically says that the PK displayer and your consciousnesses and different consciousnesses, really they're subconscious, has the ability to activate the meta control system. And literally the consciousness or subconsciousness is the key factor. It's almost as if we are player characters and we are going back deep into the subconscious realm where we have an ability to connect to the motherboard, basically, and manipulate reality. Now, Hutchinson was able to do a wide variety of different types of effects as time went on, more and more dynamic, incredibly dynamic. And there's other examples, but it's interesting. Maybe if this model is truly true like this, you don't need there to be something special about Skinwalker Ranch, except for the reputation. The reputation becomes like a magic feather. You know, you've heard me talk about magic feather. Magic feather is that literary device when a master gives the student a magic feather and says, with this, you know, feather you'll be an incredible martial artist, and the kid does incredibly well, and then there's some big final competition at the end, and the kid loses the feather and goes to the master and says, I lost my feather, I lost my feather. And the master said, it was just a stupid feather. You are the magic. And maybe you just have to make people believe enough where it goes from the conscious level to the subconscious level. So if there's a history that a building is haunted, there can be weird effects time and time again based on the different visitors. This interactive universe model does imply, though, that there are special kind of pre-programmed probabilities. Like, for example, if this was more prevalent and you didn't have all these different stipulations that made someone a PK displayer, then stressed out kids would be flying dragons and giant puppies, and there'd be all sorts of craziness going on with our reality. But our reality is very sturdy. It's very, very sturdy, and only rare circumstances can a consciousness manipulate it. You wonder that now, you know, there have been a lot of philosophers from Jung to Terence McKenna and many others, Deepak Chopra, who believe all of these are us. We are the balls of light. We are the spacecraft. That's why the spacecraft's always reflecting near future technology, because that's our imagination. We're reflecting the near future technology in the different things. Remember, first there was the blimps, the airship days, and then we had airships like, 30, 40 years later. The cigar, and I forget the other name they had for these rocket ones just before rockets, and on and on and on. So maybe there's a little bit of an integration of all of this together. Maybe it is a more interactive universe, but it doesn't have to be as way complicated as a meta control system. Maybe there's just like parameters like D&D, and it's an interactive universe. It's made to be interacted with, and you can physically change the structure. You can take energy from places that are not seen and create aports. All the stuff that happens around, like Chris Bledsoe. Perhaps it's all Chris Bledsoe. Just like with Hutchinson, it was all Hutchinson. Maybe the orbs on the farm and all the different sightings, and maybe even Shorty, as Lance Munguia pointed out to me, could be created by our minds. Maybe I created them. And that UFO that went around the truck and me and the aerospace CEO. So close, it was unfreaking believable. I think the drawing's in here somewhere. Somewhere. But I think this interactive universe model is making more and more sense. And you have to utilize the right people Now, yes, this aspect, there's something really exciting about this aspect. And oftentimes the PK displayer will not know that they are the PK displayer, most of the time, because they're subconscious. Eric Davis probably didn't know that it was him bringing that thing home with him. And all these other people. It's them and their fears and their subconscious. But what if you understand the system and you're someone like me who trains and works at accessing the subconscious more and more and more, flexing it like a muscle? Perhaps there are some, like Hutchinson and some others throughout history perhaps, that have been able to consciously be confident enough that it goes down to the subconscious and you can program and get what you want. I have all these crazy A-port stories from recently. One was I fell and smashed my Bluetooth speaker thing. And it was absolutely incredible. I loved it so much. And then literally the next morning, less than 24 hours later, I'm walking and I see this Tupperware, thrown away in a trash thing from, a superintendent of the building. And I open up and there's a brand new incredible one there that was better than my last one. And it completely worked. Why would they throw that away? Makes no sense. And a bunch of other things that happened that week too. It was like, I really want a candle. I don't have any money that day. Didn't have enough money for a candle. And before I got home, just before the building, there was a perfect candle in the plastic. So, maybe we help create our universe more and more. And the more we understand, the more we can progress. So maybe the secret is right, and all these other different things where you do influence the universe. It's not just, an allegory. It actually, you really do change and create reality with your intention. It's the classic thing, the magic flows where the intention goes. Or where the intention goes, magic flows. So maybe I'm a skinwalker, you're a skinwalker. Delphi was a skinwalker. Fatima was a skinwalker. Malmstrom, soldier somewhere around there who's very stressed out, is a skinwalker. Maybe there's a lot more of us than we think even. What do you guys think? Did I babble? Much love.